second straight season have defeated the Pearl River Kings in the Fred Page Cup.
Okanagan Sun celebrating their third ever national championship.
It's loose, and there's the goal that the Heat needed. Penticton leads! Penticton leads!
And it's Jerome Blake of Canada surprising the field with a win.
Elmore, has he got enough in the tank? Yes!
At a loss for words right now.
Welcome back to episode 2 of the Okanagan Sports Pulse podcast. I'm your host, Bowen Assman, and we got another great show for you today as we are interviewing the incredible Shanda Hill. But before we get to that, I'd like to look back at some of the great performances in the Okanagan that happened these past few weeks. As we discussed last episode, the Okanagan Sun are now one win away from another undefeated season as they take on the Ontario Football Conference champion St. Clair Saints on Saturday, November 9th. So that is sure to be quite the battle. The UBC Okanagan Heat volleyball and basketball teams have kicked off their season as the women's basketball team has gotten off to a hot start. Over the weekend, they won their first 2 games to start their season 2-0 for the first time since they joined Canada West in 2013. The team lost 3 starters from last year, but they were able to trounce the UNBC Timberwolves and the TRU Wolfpack to start the season off red hot. The men's team, meanwhile, they split a pair of games as they lost away from home against the TRU Wolfpack, and then at home against UNBC, they got a big victory as they are 1-1 to start the year. And volleyball, the women's team is 2-2 to start the season, while the men's team is 3-1. Games will continue through November before the school takes winter break in December. And speaking of volleyball, the High School Valley Championships are about to kick off soon. And in the 3A girls division, we got 3 Okanagan teams who are ranked 1, 2, and 3 to start the tournament. Now, this tournament will start November 15th and 16th in Kamloops, where we got the Vernon Secondary School Panthers ranked number 1, the Seton Sonics ranked number 2, and finally, the Fulton Maroons are ranked number 3 in the tournament. So we expect a heavy dose of the Okanagan involved in, obviously, the Valleys, but hopefully in provincials later on, as the provincials will take place later in November. So if you're around the Kamloops area, November 15th, 16th, you want to watch out some hard-hitting volleyball, please go check it out. And now to my interview with Vernon's Shanda Hill. On October 12th, Shanda Hill completed the Triple Deca Continuous Triathlon in La Garda, Italy, becoming the first woman ever to do so. Beginning on September 1st, Hill swam 114 kilometers, biked 5,400 kilometers, and ran 1,266 kilometers to complete the race in just under 41 days. If this sounds insane, well, it probably is, but Hill is no stranger to these ultra races. She has made history by etching her name in the International Ultra-Triathlon Association's prestigious Hall of Fame 100, with 135 completed long-distance triathlons. She has done these triathlons over 11 events and has continuously raised the bar for human performance. So I wanted to understand just a little bit more about what's going on in her head. And she was very gracious to give me some time to sit down and chat about it. So here we go. Well, first off, welcome back.
Thank you.
When did you get back?
Was it 17th, 18th? Yeah.
How does it feel to be back in reality, kind of, society?
The biggest thing that I've noticed is, it sounds bizarre, but everything doesn't matter.
Yeah.
And by that I mean, when you are, say your only motivation every day is pushing forward, you're in a decent amount of pain, and the only thing you look forward to is either the breaks you get, or putting compression boots on, or having a sleep at night with a heating pad. And those things are the only, say 3 things you're looking forward to. Everything else becomes irrelevant. So life becomes very simple.
Simple, yeah.
Very simple.
Yeah, interesting.
So road rage has not set in. I'm just That's his deal. It doesn't matter. Doesn't matter.
What does it mean to you to finish, such an incredible long race?
It means that basically it's one more goal checked off. That I want to casually say I didn't know I had, because when I started racing a Triple Deca, it wasn't even thought of. It wasn't on my radar, and it wasn't offered by any race director. So, it really wasn't on my goal list. Mm-hmm. And then as, time progressed, I was okay, we'll try this. And I think after the Double Deca, I stopped racing for goals, so to speak, and just kept racing because I still love it. So new goals obviously come up. Yeah. But, Yeah,
I remember last year you were saying that there weren't really any goals. You said there was talk about a Triple Deca maybe happening.
I'm
and
consistent.
All of a sudden you're jumping into this, right?
I'm consistent.
So I guess what made you want to pursue it? Obviously you were talking about it maybe last year, but what made you just say, yes, I'm going to do this?
What was the clincher? I think there is a little bit of talk between athletes, and for me what happens is, one athlete will say to me, or a couple athletes will say to me, oh, there's this race coming up, are you in? And it's almost like going to a party and your friends are all going to be there. And if you don't show up, you might miss something. That's the best way I could equate it into normal terms, is they're all going to have fun. They might have a lot of fun. You might not be there.
So it was FOMO, but not for a party of this crazy race.
It sounds crazy. I get all the time, people say, oh, you must love pain. I don't like pain or cold or being wet any more than you or anybody else does. But it's part of the process. Do you like every aspect of your job every day? No, there's probably aspects that you're just like, oh, I could do without that. I could do without it, but you grow.
Right. So why do you put yourself through that, though?
From the outside, it looks like putting myself through it. But I'm there for the learning, I'm there for the experience, I'm there for the people. And the entire experience may look like putting myself through it, but there are moments that are really incredible. I have some really fantastic conversations with other people, and I learn from them, and I grow, and, all of that to me is part of the experience. So the pain is not the focus, and if I let it become the focus, it would stop my race.
Right.
So
for people who maybe they see what you do and they say, oh, I can never do this, do you think it's kind of simpler than that? Like, people think it's an impossible feat, but maybe if you distill it down a little bit, and I assume you just take it day by day, step by step, right?
The easiest thing is to say I can never do this.
Yeah.
Because it eliminates the possibility that you could, and by thinking you could means you might want to try, and that would lead you down a spiraling road. So, that would be a black and white answer. I think that if we embrace the possibility that we could do anything that seems extraordinary or, a little harder to reach, I think that, we would start to realize that we can do things like that. And by breaking it down to, say, taking the first step, I started out with, a normal triathlon distance. I didn't start out with these big distances. It kind of just led to that. And my mind being open to, well, what if we could? And always expecting to feel worse than I did. And then when I didn't feel as bad as I did, but yes, breaking it down into sections, I don't ever look at the full number. Obviously when I'm doing paperwork and signing up and stuff.
Yeah.
But every day I make a goal of saying average is 2 marathons. And that's a big thing. But most people don't realize, you could do a slow run and you could cover 2 marathons in a day, without any substantial issues if you're reasonably fit.
Right.
Yeah.
So maybe jumping back a little bit for a background for people who know you but maybe aren't familiar with your full history, what was kind of the catalyst for you to jump into these waters of the ultra events?
2014, I started out sitting at my kitchen table with a friend, and he said to me, "Why don't you try a triathlon?" And okay, that's great. That was in April 2014. He gave me the website of Challenge Penticton. I went on and checked it out, and that night signed up. You know, I didn't know there was any other distance than the iron distance. So, which is, you know, it's substantial, but it's, you know, it's doable. And the next day, I phoned him and said, you know, I've signed up. And oh no, like he probably thought I was going to go check it out. That parlayed into, you know, that August competing and finishing, which my only goal was to finish. I didn't even care about the time, just finish that. And then it was 2 years later that another buddy of mine, he said, "Have you thought about trying a double?" And I didn't even know a double existed. So it was, you know, that summer that I went to Oregon, and it's called the Double Anvil because the name Ironman's patented. And went down and did the Double Anvil in Oregon, and I didn't think of anything bigger than that at the time, but it was at that race that somebody said, "There's a triple in Virginia this fall, and at the same time every 2 years they also host a quintuple distance." So 2016 was the year that I went from a double in the summertime to taking on a quintuple, and that was probably the catalyst, because at the quintuple I found out that there was bigger distances.
It was just kind of escalating.
I came by it naturally,
right.
But it wasn't until 2018 that I went back and actually did the triple, just so that I could, you know, have a double, triple, quintuple, etc. But I didn't even do them in order. I went backwards and did the triple because I wanted to say I did the triple.
Right.
So.
And so now, let's talk a little bit about was it 41 days total?
Yes, it was 41.6 days.
In Italy.
No, was it 40.6 or 41.6?
Yeah.
I don't know. It's kind of a blur.
Yeah. Are there any, let's say, like highlights, but like very vivid memories you've had that, you know, were either good or bad? Maybe one from each?
We'll get the bad out of the way. When I came off the bike, I hadn't sat that long on a bike before, and all of my muscles that are in the area of sitting on my bike seat, they literally had shortened up. So I didn't know, based on my lack of experience with sitting on a bike for 18 days, that those muscles would be so short. And I went right from being on the bike to almost immediately rainy, nasty, slippery, wet conditions. And trying to run on those slippery, wet conditions caused tremendous amount of problems in my hip. The gift in all this is, even though I was suffering for the rest of the entire race with hip problems and muscles, you know, causing me grief, they had an osteotherapist working there, and he was incredible, and day after day he worked on me, and my body started to heal. So that was a tough part.
Does quitting ever cross your mind when you're in this like immense pain?
I think it crosses my mind, but not my heart. And by that I mean, yes, you're like, oh, I want to quit. You know, like, what are we doing? This is absolutely stupid. It happens. The athletes say this to each other, and it's actually funny because we'll kind of call each other out and say, like, what were we thinking, right? You have those moments. But my heart always wanted to finish. And I think that's the deciding factor, is if your heart and your mind are working in unison, your body can say whatever it likes. And short of a broken bone, if you know that the broken bone is your limit, that's what's going to end your race. But anything else, you know, will heal within that time frame. It's just going to be really painful. So, you know, as like when I rolled my ankle, I know that it's probably a 3-month recovery period anyway. Is it going to make it any worse? Not unless I roll it again badly, you know?
Fair enough.
Your body does start to heal.
You
just have to be, you know, I taped it up right away. I did compression. I did ice. everything I could do to give it what it needed to start healing. And while you're resting, it will start to heal. You know, you get less fluid retention. But I had to keep using it, so it just was what it was.
Are there kind of like, obviously, you're active on social media. Well, you're not active, but you have a social media account.
Yes.
Does that play a role into like the aspect of quitting? It's like I have these people that are following me and helping me do well, like these maybe barriers that will stop you, or is it kind of all you and what your heart and your brain feel?
It's heart and brain before anything on social media. I would not at any cost push my body for somebody else.
Right. Yeah.
Because I don't want the long-term damage. I want to be in this for a long time, as long as I'm enjoying it and loving it. And if you looked for external sources, you're never going to make anybody happy. I do embrace and I do respect that my journey may be motivating other people, or it may be making them happy, and I do have an appreciation for that. But it's never what drives me. I mean, if I had to go rogue tomorrow and Jax couldn't do social media, I would quietly be running in loops because I still have a love for it.
Right.
So.
Right. And yeah, you said you twisted your ankle. For a lot of people, that would be the end because immense pain. And so, but your relationship to your body feels more of an acceptance of eventual healing.
The thing I have going for me is that it isn't the first time that I've rolled my ankle. And there is a time running a race in Cal Park in 2021 that I rolled it, and it was twice as bad. And I still had to go to work. I still had to function and be on my ankle. And I think the difference is if you're able to be off it and rest it, ice it, do everything, I think it heals quicker. But did my ankle still heal, from 2021? Yeah, it just took about 7 months.
Right.
So I have the gift, I guess, of knowing my body will heal. It's just that by me continuing to use it and be on it, I'm just impeding how quick the recovery process is. So I'm just taking my previous experiences and going, okay, this isn't a deal breaker.
Right.
For somebody else it might be because they don't have the previous...
Right. The scar tissue in a way.
The mental scar tissue.
Yeah.
It's so much like life, because somebody's idea of trauma in this day and age might be their phone, being lost and they can't function without it. Whereas 30 years ago, think about what our parents went through and what their trauma might be.
Right.
Both are types of trauma, but one could be a deciding factor of whether you can get out of bed in the morning, and the other one, how do you compare the two? So it doesn't make somebody else's trauma any less.
Right.
But the relativity factor, we look at what our grandparents went through.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Get out of bed. Just get out of bed.
Try to find food for the day, right?
Yeah.
And so maybe going back to another moment, but on the opposite end of the spectrum, something that you were really excited or happy during the race?
I'll tell you what actually as far as material things, we went on the bike course. There was some issues with a generator not supplying, power to all of the tents that we were staying in. And we went 36 hours without power. And so at the end, it was very stressful psychologically, because if you don't have power, you can't charge your bike lights. And when you don't have crew worrying about those things for you, which in the beginning of the bike I didn't, all of a sudden you're thinking about, while you're cycling that day, how am I going to charge my bike lights at night? What am I, because that can be a deciding factor of whether you're riding your bike at night. If you don't have backup. So those things can become quite big issues. And when we finally got power again, I have my little, tiny heating blanket. And at the end of the day, that's what really makes me feel happy. Because if it's cold out and your sleeping bag isn't thick enough and you're not getting a good sleep because you're freezing, something as small as a heating blanket can just make your day. So when we got power again, it was just like, this is so amazing. I can have a good sleep because I know I'll be warm enough to not be awake for the 3 hours that I need before I get back on that bike.
Right.
So
Yeah.
that was, material-wise, that's really fantastic. Other moments are, speaking with the other athletes. And one of the athletes I always go to is Leah, because she came to the U.S. from Romania before the revolution, basically escaped. And her story and just hearing things that she's been through, like I'm saying with the cell phone versus her grandparents, what she's been through to get to this point in her life where a triathlon is something that she's putting herself in that uncomfortable position versus being forced into it. Her experiences coming out of Romania are absolutely inspiring. So those things are highlights for me, and really it makes you look at it and go, we're paying to be in this race where we know we're going to have pain. Right. She was in a situation where she could have not paid anything enough to get out of that. And so I find that very inspiring. So.
And on the course, they were laps. Yes. So what was like the lap length for like swimming, biking, and running?
The swim was held in a 50-meter pool. Yeah. I'm not even going to calculate the laps. You can do that.
So that must just get a little...
114K.
Yeah.
You know what it is? The swim, the bike, and the run, it's absolutely mind-numbing. And you have to be creative because, yes, it's in a controlled environment somewhat, but you have the opportunity every lap to stop. On the bike, you could go in your tent and you could not come out. So psychologically, I think that is the most difficult part, is that even on the run, there's a food table, there's your tent, every single just over 1K lap. You have the option of quitting like a hamster in a wheel.
Eat every time. Yeah.
There's so many opportunities for you to waste time and not be, self-regulating. That for me is also a beautiful thing, because you have that choice every single kilometer. Do I quit? Do I keep going? Do I sit and eat and hang out and chit chat, or do I apply myself and focus and keep on going? But anyway, the swim's 50 meters in the pool. My particular swim, it's 114K. It went on for 92 hours. That includes a couple hours of sleep, and food breaks, bathroom breaks, etc. The bike was just over 7K. And what we didn't know is the bike course, from the time the race director had told people about it to the time we actually were on it, was a completely different course. Oh. So what I didn't know, and what most of the athletes didn't know, is it was not mostly flat. It had a very steep hill. Oh. And that hill's fine when you do it the first time. It's fine when you do it the 10th time. But when you hit 720, 800 laps of that hill, we climbed over 5,400K. We climbed more than the elevation of Mount Everest. Wow. And imagine what that does to your knees. Yeah. Every 7K lap, climbing that much. And in the back of your head that it's coming. Yes. It's there. Right? And when you're really fatigued, it's very hard to embrace that you're going to wake up tomorrow and do that same hill. Right. That aside from... I don't want to say that Italian drivers are crazy drivers, but in the short amount of experience that I had on that particular road that only fit 1.5 cars, and there was no bike lane, things got really crazy. There was also 15-foot high heavy duty machinery that was used for harvesting the grapes, because we were there during, riding around the vineyards, and we were there during the time that they're harvesting the grapes. And I watched with fascination as these grapes were being harvested, all by machines, nobody's picking them. But also these huge machines would track dirt, manure, and mud onto the road when they're going across it. And you have absolutely no choice but to take your nice, beautiful, clean road bike and go through all of the manure and crap. And when it's raining, that turns into mud. Right. Like the photos of some of the bikes and how badly they got covered in mud. It's so cringy. Anyway.
And then the run, what was the lap of that?
Just over 1K.
Wow.
What we didn't know also going into this is, that it was undulating. It wasn't flat 1K. There were sections that turned into absolute mud. And try climbing on a small incline when you have no footing. This will absolutely mentally demoralize you, because if you want to hit and your body is okay to hit 2 marathons per day, and you come up short at 60 because you pushed so hard but you were going nowhere because you're slipping and sliding, it's very disarming. So I had days where I think I was hitting, maybe giving 100% effort, and I was only hitting 67K. But what you had to do to hit that 67K, tremendous amount of effort, and you went to bed at night, and it's so hard to not beat yourself up, because you know that for every 20K you lose per day, you're going to add another day on the other end that it's going to take you to finish the race.
Right.
And you can't make that up.
Yeah.
You could hit 80 the next day, but hit 100 to make up for the 20K you lost the previous day? Good luck. Good luck.
Did you have any distractions? Like, did you have any books, or did you watch movies, like, during, like, this brief time, or was it just kind of be active and then sleep?
My day revolved around waking up. I would take 3, max 5 hours sleep. I would take 2 or 3, sometimes 4 breaks of 15 minutes during the day. And every time that I took those, I would put my feet in compression boots just to try and get the circulation, because being on your feet that many hours is tough. And my days were just, if I had extra time, I would phone home, or you're thinking and planning about what you need to have ready for the evening.
So very
do I have dry gear?
Focused.
You have to be 100% present. If you're anywhere else, you might as well not be racing. Some of the athletes do, like the Czechoslovakian athlete, he pretty much listened to true crime his entire race. And even with his broken English, I'd run up beside him, Yuri, what are you listening to today?
Yeah.
True crime. So, oh man, you're going to be in a really dark hole by the time you finish this race.
Absolutely.
But that's what did it for him. So some of the athletes put their music on and go. I don't have any exterior stimulation that way, because I'm either just figuring out how I'm going to keep moving in my own mind, or trying to just be present. Yeah. I'm there for the experience, so why not be
Embrace
there?
It, right?
Why not really truly be there? Ask my body how it's feeling. What do I need to think about to make that day happen?
And what was the most difficult? Was it the lack of sleep, maybe the amount of nutrition that you need to get into your system, or just like the pounding that your body took?
I think this race, over any race, psychologically, I think it was the most difficult. And I say that because there's so many things. I mean, I don't know if the race director just didn't see certain things coming up as an issue, but we were hit with a lot of different obstacles during this race that psychologically it was difficult, to negotiate. And right down to, thinking we would be doing basically road running. Nobody brought off-road shoes. We were all stuck in the same boat, but when you're trying to do a trail run in flat road running shoes, you're asking for blisters because your foot is moving like this.
Yeah.
That was something a lot of the athletes faced. I had a guy and one of my girlfriends show up, and he was supposed to be racing. She was actually going to crew him. And he ended up seeing the conditions we were dealing with and saying, I'm going to forfeit my race, and I'm going to stick around and help all the athletes. So I basically had crew I didn't know I was going to have spread out between me and, probably 10 other people that were from different disciplines.
Right.
Because there wasn't just the 30 going on. There was a 10 and there was a 20. And, but he stayed there and he helped all of the athletes. And it made a huge difference in my race and their races as well. So,
Wow.
yeah.
So when it was over, does satisfaction, how long does that last? Like, feeling of accomplishment?
I would say that it's more relief.
Right.
And I say that because when all of these different things hit you during the race, mental, physical, emotional, you have to hold it together. Or you could literally just go to your tent and cry.
Right.
And lose it and lose your focus. And so I think with all the issues that I had, my hip, my ankle, it's bizarre because that last lap that I ran, I didn't feel anything. I didn't feel pain or anything. You've held it together that long, and all of a sudden you're running on adrenaline. You know, this is it. I'm out of here after this.
Yeah.
You know, good or bad, I'm out of here. And I didn't feel anything. I ran that last lap and I got to the finish line and I just bawled because you hold it together that long and finally you know it's okay. It's okay to let all that go because I don't have to wake up in 3 hours.
Right.
And do this all over again.
Right.
So there's satisfaction in knowing that I finished my goal, and I think that's permanent because it's kind of like a check mark on the list.
Yeah.
But as far as a high or anything, this race went on for so long that I don't know if there is.
That's fair enough. Yeah.
I think it was just wow. I don't have to wake up and do that tomorrow.
Yeah.
So
And what was, in terms of your recovery, what was kind of the most difficult? The body healing, getting your amount of sleep back, your food intake? Or was it kind of easier than maybe people think? Because people hearing your stories, like, she must just be completely destroyed after this, right? Like,
yeah, and you know what? I did have fatigue. Like, I did want to take naps. But I would say that the biggest factor of that is simply because I was sleep deprived.
Yeah.
So I got about a week's worth of good 8-10 hour sleeps. And yesterday, for the first time since the race, I felt like I had the equal amount of energy I normally do.
Wow.
So I'm surprised by this.
Mm.
The biggest thing is people always say to me, you're going to blow up your heart. You must have incredible cardio.
Mm.
I look at a CrossFit athlete. They have incredible cardio. I almost never, during the race, raise my heart rate.
Right.
My breathing almost never goes up, and that's because the second that you start to do that, you build up lactic acid, and your body has to get rid of lactic acid, or you're going to be hurting the next day. So my goal is to be in good enough physical shape that I can simply maintain a certain speed, whether it's 25, 30 kilometers an hour on the bike. I can maintain that for hours on end without my heart rate ever going up.
Mm.
So as far as blowing my heart up, I would be shocked if that's what kills me. It'll probably be a driver on the road.
Right.
If I had to speculate, I am
yeah.
not, trying to predict anything. I'm just saying that the reality is that I would be shocked if it was, a heart problem.
Yeah, it's not
Maybe
like
my hips would go.
Not like you were sprinting or anything, right?
No.
So it's just kind of...
No, so it brings the question, sure there's wear and tear on your body, but I think as a culture or, as people, I think we are doing just as much harm by leading sedentary lifestyles as, people may think that I am by being extra active.
Yeah.
And
finally, what's next?
Do I want to play that game where I don't tell Bowen and then tell him in a month and a half? What do you think, Jack? The IUTA has, as of today, put out an official race calendar for next year. So I haven't looked at it, but I know roughly what's supposed to be on it. In November, if they approve, there is going to be a Deca Continuous in Taiwan. It will be the first race where we don't tent. Apparently, the Taiwanese government is sponsoring this event, and it will be held in a hotel, which I've never heard of this. Apparently the hotel is free. There's a 24-hour convenience store at the bottom of the hotel. This is what I've been told, that has food all day long. So if this is, it sounds like a utopia for people competing.
Yeah.
I will 100% be there.
And that's a triple deca?
That is a 10 Ironman.
Okay.
It's a short race.
Short race for people.
When you go from a 30 to
Yeah,
that,
of course,
it is. It's like going from a marathon to a 10K.
Right.
You have to approach it differently, and your time management is everything.
Right.
I could go in the same condition as I am now. What would be a deciding factor of how I finish is my time management. Is everything pre-planned? Is your bike lights ready for the night? How quickly can you make each transition?
Right.
How little can you sleep in those 11 days? So Taiwan is in November. I am committed to South Africa in March. That's a deca also. I want to get good at the 10 iron in essence. There is going to be, in May, a deca in Brazil. That will put me at 30 for the year, iron distances. And there is also Colmar, which is offering a deca. This is the first year that this many decas have been offered.
Wow, yeah.
Right?
It's becoming more popular.
This is incredible.
So, yeah.
You know? And there's also talk of either double deca or a quadruple deca in Poland. I don't know if that's going to happen. I know that the logistics have been submitted to the IUTA, which is the governing body that approves these races. If that's a go-ahead, I will make every effort to be there because, I mean, based on the logistics of the course that we just went through, I'm not gonna laugh at it and say it's gonna be easy, but I believe that even a quintuple deca, quadruple deca, would be easier than what we went through. So if we get a bike course without a giant hill in it, I honestly believe, based on the conditioning of my body, sure you're sore, sure it's hard, I believe that 10,000 kilometers could be done. And it wouldn't feel any different than 5,400K. I think once you get used to sitting on that bike seat, it's just a matter of how miserable can you get.
Becomes part of you, right?
I was really shocked by the bike because I felt that my level of conditioning after 18 days had only really started to pick up. And to add credibility to that, if you look at my bike times, my lap times, and how many kilometers I was doing per day, I actually got faster and better as I went. And that to me is fascinating.
Yeah, absolutely.
So was the bike training in itself for me to be a better athlete? A higher functioning, was my body adjusting and becoming better as time went on? And the lap times and the miles per day show that something was happening.
Right.
It's just amazing.
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah. Those things shock me too.
Yeah, absolutely.
I was becoming conditioned. So what would have 10,000K looked like?
Yeah. Who knows? You'll figure it out in a couple of years, I imagine.
Maybe.
Yeah.
Maybe.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much.
That's it?
Yeah.
End of the questions. All right. You're welcome.
Wow.
Now you've heard it all.
Yeah.
Almost.
So
talk to you next year.
Is that Taiwan one? You said November? That's when they're going to...
November 9th.
Oh.
It's going to be hot. It's going to be humid.
Next year or this year?
Next year.
Next year, yeah.
Yeah.
And then...
There's a possibility of 70 to 80 Ironmans being done next year. That number is astronomical.
Yeah.
That's never been done before. 41 is the record right now, and I was beat out by one.
Oh.
My record is 40.
Do you feel like the profile of like the IOTA and kind of these ultra races have kind of been raised a little bit the past couple of years? Because I remember even last year you were saying there was hardly any races, and now they're kind of popping up more.
I think that there's a demand for it because the database of athletes has expanded so much.
Right.
The last time that I heard the numbers of people even doing, doubles, triples, and quintuples had grown by 30%. And if that's in the last year, we're talking, 100 athletes up to 130 athletes. If that even grew 30% next year, you're looking in 5 years of having 400 or 500 athletes competing in different distances. When I finished in 2017 at the Deca, I was the 7th woman in the world to ever finish. 2019, I was the 3rd female to ever finish a double Deca. We're talking 3 years ago.
Right. Yeah.
And now there's something like 8 or 9.
Yeah.
That number's doubled in the time that I've been racing.
Wow.
That's women embracing that it can be done, and race directors going, okay, we can now fill our slots for 20, 30, 40 people in the pool. And that's in different distances too, but still, to have 8 athletes finish a triple Deca when it's the first year, that's substantial, that there's that many people in the world that have embraced it.
Yeah,
This is doable, and I'm going to pay a lot of money to do it.
Yeah.
It's bizarre.
Who knows, right? 5 years from now or whatever. So.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So.
Cool. So how did it feel going back to work?
I'd been anticipating that it would happen from the moment I left. So the first day was actually a bit miserable because I was tired, and that's when you say, okay, well, I'm tired, that's great, I gotta go anyways.
Yeah.
Honestly, work is harder than racing. Really. Haul 80-pound buckets up 20 or 30 stairs full of rocks for 6 hours. You want to die. That's cardio. And then get on your bike and go ride with people that you generally enjoy being around and a fairly scenic countryside road.
Right.
And some crazy drivers. Work is man, I got to go back to that. This is a vacation.
And one you getting paid for, the other you're not. Right.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
So.
And one, I believe having a physical job is probably one of the biggest things that makes me good at what I'm doing.
Yeah.
Because every day it's a mental game of, do I want to quit? Oh, wait, that pays my bills.
Exactly. Yeah.
Can't.
There's a good barrier there. Right? Absolutely. Wow.
So.
And finally, before we go, I just want to highlight an Okanagan athlete that is raising the bar this year. Kate Pinsonalt is a 17-year-old water skier who had won 7 medals at the 2024 Pan American Water Ski Championships hosted in Bogota, Colombia. Pinsonalt, who is still just in grade 12, was one of 20 Canadians competing. She came away with numerous medals at the team U17 and U21 level. Very, very impressive. She competes out of Skaha Lake, and she told the Penticton Western News' Logan Lockhart in an interview that, quote, "Without Skaha Lake and my dad spending countless hours driving for me, I wouldn't be where I am today, and I'm so grateful for that." I think that is just so wonderful. And I kind of just like ending the show with a nice, wholesome story, and I think this kind of epitomizes that. So I just want to thank everybody for listening, for watching. Please like and subscribe, and please let me know who you would like for me to have on and interview myself. We got a lot of athletes, a lot of coaches, a lot of builders, executives, just tons of people in the Okanagan that I think should be highlighted a little bit more. So please let me know, email me, drop a comment, anything. And I really appreciate it. And I'll see you next time.